Hello, welcome to the Marshawn Brooks Show, the inception, until about, what did you say, 10, 15 seconds ago, the Marshawn Brooks Show did not exist, and in many ways still does not. So I appreciate if anyone at all is listening to this, which I sincerely doubt. We do appreciate your time. So I'm sitting down with my good friend here to figure out what this show is going to be about. A little behind the scenes before the scenes are actually shot. And I want to start off with a little bit of an origin story, a genesis, so to speak, of what this project is, what it means to me, what led me here. Right? So, some of you might be familiar with school of thought, school of thinking, a philosophy known as the Red Pill. Now, this used to be a big part of the way that I viewed the world. About 2016, I think it was. That sound right to you? Yeah. About 2016, I had it wasn't a bad breakup by breakup standards, but I broke up with, she broke up with me. A girl I was dating at the time. I thought she was the one, if there was one. Great girl. No, my friend here is making making faces behind the scenes, but I cared about her a lot, and she meant a lot to me. And when she broke up with me, it caused me to reevaluate a lot of aspects of my life, search for meaning in places that perhaps I wouldn't have, and to reconsider some of my underlying assumptions about the relationships between men and women, about the social scripts that we all as a society just kind of agree to be true, tacitly, in an unspoken way. In this search, as a lot of young men do, I came across, red pill ideology. I think is a fair label. For those of you unfamiliar with the red pill, or passingly familiar, I do want to say that the red pill, in and of itself, is not a hate movement. It is merely a group of men, some women, but vast majority are men, who endeavor to remove all the emotion, remove all the poetry, remove all the, in some cases, mythology that surrounds love and sexual and romantic interactions between men and women, so that they're left only with cold, hard facts. And the fact that a lot of men find this movement when and only when they have gone through a rather stressful and trying time with the woman or women in their lives means that a lot of the forums dedicated to red pill thinking are dedicated to what we call red pill rage. Uh, you see a lot of hatred towards women on those forums, a lot of anger, a lot of misplaced blame from people that are in a very, very difficult time in their lives, that believed in a set of values that they see now are at very least incomplete and possibly exist to misinform them. And as a result, they lash out. That is not in the purest sense what this red pill thing is about. It's about and only about what are the facts. What you choose to do with them is beyond that scope. Now, this was part of my intellectual journey. It was part of my emotional development. It was part of putting into context some of the events that I had gone through and some of the events that I do still struggle with. It gave me a set of tools that were useful in looking at the world at that time. There is a definite bias in that community. Makes you very adept at looking at the world through the lens of sexual dimorphism, seeing everything as a manifestation of male or female nature, a male or female agenda. And I got very, very good, my friend can attest to this, at using that cognitive framework. And I would see it in everything. The issue is that when you have a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. And a hammer is not the appropriate tool for every situation. It's a useful tool, it's a powerful one. It works when you need it for the appropriate function. But I noticed myself beginning to become stunted, beginning to use it in areas where perhaps it wasn't warranted. Even if there was some truth in it, I would reach for an explanation, somebody would ask me my opinion, and what would come out of my mouth would be entrenched within that framework. That became not the only tool I could use, but the one with which I was by far most comfortable. And that struck me as an issue. Anytime we as people become so one note, so one-dimensional, so heavily reliant on one philosophy, one ideology, we become brittle. Anytime that we think the world is so simple as to be reduced to one set of values, to one explanation for any occurrence, no matter how small, I think we're on the wrong path. So a lot of what this is me trying to branch out, to move beyond the confines that I've placed myself in and that I've been placed in by others, by society, by whatever society means, by a family unit that I've inherited, by a friend group that I've chosen for myself, by social scripts that I've chosen to adopt and execute against in the way it's manifested in my life. I've heard the term white pill used as a way of pursuing a philosophy, a set of cognitive frameworks and mental models that can contextualize and integrate all the others, that can find the truth, the usefulness, the good and the poison that exists within all the other philosophies. I originally thought about calling this podcast, such as there is a podcast right now, The White Pill. Upon a quick Google search, I found a lot of incel threads and that sort of thing. This is not a podcast about that. This is not what I'm interested in. This is not what I think is worth pursuing. So I just decided to use my name instead and make it about my journey for whatever that's worth to others, if others ever hear this. So that's what it's about, man. Seeing what's useful, what's true, what's poisonous about ideas that I encounter, that you encounter, that come across our desk and fall into our laps. So I guess the next question is, if my stated goal is personal growth and the development of self, why podcasts? Why is this not just a thing that I do within the four walls of my home? Why is this not a thing that I just pursue as an individual? And I can't claim that I have a complete or satisfactory answer for that yet. I would say that perhaps the best method isn't the best method, but it's the one that I can do most ably, that I am most particularly suited for. I'm not claiming to be some sort of podcast guru. I think anyone that's listened to this recording so far will know that I have a long way to go on that front. However, my friend here across the table from me has been lecturing me for ages to speak and write. My friend, why would that be? Why do you think that those are the mediums of choice that I can most ably execute against and express myself through?
I mean, I think the introduction to this is a testament already.
How so, man? let's call it. We're both being recorded right now. It's natural that both of us are going to be a little stilted and jolted. That's fine. Let's just tell me what you feel. Tell me what you think. Would you tell other friends of ours, other mutual friends of ours, that they should be doing the same thing? That they're uniquely suited for podcasting, for writing?
Most likely no.
Why would that be?
They don't have the same command of language that you have.
Say more.
I mean, that's the bulk of the reason there is just. Yeah, I guess not. It's because you always have a way to put your thoughts. I don't know.
You do. No, go on. You're onto something here.
Seems like you know.
No,
You know what I'm getting at.
All right, don't try to follow this off on me. All right, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, he's part of the technical difficulty.
Nothing technical about it.
I think when I hear that, right? Like when I hear that you think that I am somehow suited for extemporaneous speech and
What does that mean?
like off the cuff, spur of the moment. All right, I got a dictionary right here. Bro. You wanna? Yeah.
Peculiar.
Affect. Allusion. Yeah. So when I hear that, man, like it's hard for me to see that. Like I don't feel particularly eloquent or articulate. I don't feel necessarily like something worth listening to, or worth recording for posterity's sake. However, this is why we got the laptop with us. I don't know if you've ever heard of The War of Art. It's a book by Stephen Pressfield. I got it on the shelf right there. And it's a book for creative types, much like yourself, who come up against what he calls resistance. And resistance, he deems that force that tries to prevent you from doing the things that would most contribute to your growth and therefore your contribution to the world as a whole. So that can be writer's block for a writer. That can be stage fright for an actor. That can be procrastination. That can be whatever it is, it will be the thing that is most well targeted, most well suited to stop you dead in your tracks from fulfilling the goals that you want to achieve. He says that if you find yourself asking yourself and your friends, am I really a writer? Am I really an artist? Chances are you are. The counterfeit innovator is wildly self-confident. The real one is scared to death. Now, I don't feel as though I'm a real innovator or an innovator of any sort. I do know that I'm scared to death. And what do I have to lose but a little bit of time? And what is that little bit of time between two friends? So we're doing this. So I feel that's as good a justification as any for doing a podcast, for putting this out there and seeing who bites. I also believe that we know ourselves by our volition, by what we choose to do in our spare time. A lot of us find ourselves in career paths that maybe we do enjoy, or at least enjoy parts of. Maybe we're good at, or at least we're good at parts of. Not a lot of us, though, I would say not the majority, pursue that career in our off time, like when we're goofing off. A lot of us have something that might be tangentially related, that might be, I don't know, might have something to do with what we do from 9 to 5, or nothing at all to do with it, but we're pursuing something different. So you might have a guy who's an architect and plays guitar in his spare time. You might have a guy who is a doctor and likes doing, not doing MMA. How do you conjugate that? Participating in MMA. I'm a fan, I should know. Yeah. Well, we'll say doing MMA, whatever. Doing MMA in his spare time. You find these really interesting, not paradoxes, but they're unique contradictions. A poet who's also a jazz harmonica player, or a stage actor who's also an expert marksman. And that's not to say that all the time our pastimes would make good career choices, but I do think they're an indication of who we really are, kind of beneath the surface, beneath the script of what we're supposed to do, how we should be filling our time, the things that are supposed to make us a good citizen, a good husband, a good father, a good member of the town. And when I'm in my free time, I read about writing, I write about reading, I talk about everything under the sun. I don't know, I take an interest in what I think are a varied set of ideas in disciplines and fields, very few of which find their way into my work. And I'm left to wonder, what does that say about my work? What does that say about me? Is my work not suited to me? Am I not suited to it? I think at very least it's an indication that this is an aspect of my personality, of myself, that I should explore. Again, as good a justification as any that I can think of to be broadcasting this out there, as opposed to doing it just within the walls of my home. Although it did take the cajoling of a valued friend sitting across from me to think that this may be an indication that something should be done about it. So the next question, after we've covered my journey here, the reasons why I think this is the medium in which I should be creating. I think creating is probably a strong word for what's going on here, but is why today? Why now? Like, why now after all these years of you telling me this is something I should do, of flirting around and dancing around with the topic, around the endeavor, the project, whatever you want to call it, why have I suddenly just called you over, spur of the moment, drop of the hat, on a dime? I had to get one more in there. To do this ramshackle slapdash podcast.
Look at that word soup right there.
Bro, I'm gonna flow right now, right? Don't kill my vibes. Right?
Just
So I was having a conversation with this guy at work today. He's in PA school. He was really shedding some light on some pretty sobering realities of healthcare, and not necessarily saying things I didn't know, but saying them in a way and with a body language, with a if tapioca could have an energy, that would have been his soul as he was talking about that job, about talking about the educational process and the field in general. Like, just so drained of life and milk toast. This isn't reflecting on a guy, but when I see people talk about their work or about the field that they're in, and there's that deflated quality to their speech, to their body language, I'm like, it scares the living shit out of me, man. And I don't even think it's that he didn't enjoy what he was doing. I think it's just that it comes along with so many other restraints, so many other traps and prisons, that it's so tainted that it's not even what it is anymore. Like, at what point can being a PA, for example, be so overrun by administrative duty, by litigious threat, that you're not even really able to identify as that being your occupation anymore, and your job just becomes not getting sued, for not getting blamed. You know what I mean? Like, that just caused me to kind of reevaluate some things. And then when somebody starts talking to you about why they like their job, why they like their career, why they're in it, and they're bringing up health savings accounts and a 401k match, sure, those are cherries on top, but is that really enough to sustain you day to day for 40 years? And have you not want to blow your fucking brains out? And I'm terrified of that, man. I'm terrified of pushing my way through into a field that I shouldn't have been in the first place, getting there and realizing, holy shit, I'm trapped now. That white picket fence, the 2.5 kids, that whole life, that shit scares the living daylights out of me. Not even necessarily because any of those things are evil, but because it's not a story that I wrote for myself. And I don't want to, they what, all the world's a stage, we're actors upon it. At least let me freestyle with the lines a little bit. I understand we all have roles to play, and some of those are really important to exist as a member of society, but give me some play, man. When I talked to that guy, I didn't see freedom. I didn't see meaning and determination. I saw existential threat. You know that my aim has been to be a physician. Lately, I've been questioning that path somewhat. Not necessarily due to anything wrong with the profession, but I suppose due to things that are ancillary to it. Credentialism is one. I know that credentials are important, especially for something like that. You need to know that people are up to snuff, and the quickest way to do that, the fastest heuristic, is what letters do they have after their name. But when I see the selection process and how name value for our university somehow indicates something about who you are as a person, what you're capable of, especially as somebody that's never been at home in traditional academia and like the traditional education system, I wonder, A, can I even make it? And B, if I do, am I really going to belong? Am I going to be home there? Or am I just going to be casting off the shackles of poverty and putting on the shackles of, I don't know, that credentialist, yuppie circle jerk that I see from the outside looking in. So I've been questioning that path lately, asking myself, how deep into the matrix do I want to go? How much do I want to buy into the program? I'm not trying to sound like tinfoil hat, down the rabbit hole. I do think that a lot of us believe things that are only partially true. Never stop to ask why, and never really take the helm of our own lives. Never take ownership of the men that we become. And that's not what I want. So when I was having that conversation, I felt that dread, and I kind of felt spurred into action. I was listening on the way home to a podcast with Tim Ferriss show. I'm a big fan of his podcast. And he was doing an episode with a guy named Adam Grant. And at one point in the conversation, they were kind of contrasting their own experiences. Tim Ferriss is the way he does things, it's as though reality is meant to be jailbroken. Finding shortcuts, using 80-20 principles, Freudian distributions, to find the fastest way to get the 20% of input that's going to produce 80% of your output, and get up to snuff in a variety of disciplines, whether it be chess, jiu-jitsu, archery, cooking, just hacking life, before hacking life was really a thing. So he's really made his own game. He's really made his own system. He's really a guy that's taken ownership of his own life, and not every step of his journey's been easy or pleasant. But he's done it regardless. Adam Grant, wonderkind. No one can doubt that. He said himself that what he did was more traditional path. He excelled in the traditional system, going through academia, teaching in university, getting professorship. I don't know if he has tenure now, but that seems like the next step. So they kind of contrasted between the rigged games of Tim Ferriss and the established avenues of Adam Grant. Rigged games of our own making versus established avenues of somebody else's. And that's a good summation of where I stand in terms of my career nexus right now. I'm at a point where, yeah, I can go further down the path, as far down the path of somebody else's avenue, and have the security that offers. But then there's this thing over here that it keeps going back to me. I can't get out of my mind. What if I made my own game? I don't know how to make a rule set. I don't know how to cut a board on whatever the fuck boards are made of, cardboard or whatever. I don't know the first thing about it. But I can't leave that stone unturned. And wonder what if for the next 50 years. I'm pretty sure I'll be dead by then, but whatever. I've been doing this thing, I was talking to you this before we started recording a little bit, called 75 Hard. This is a bandwagon thing. I heard about it through word of mouth, through a friend of mine, though apparently it is big on social media right now. Not that I would know. Essentially, this gentleman, Andy Frisella, CEO of, we're doing a lot of plugs this episode, huh? CEO of, what is the CEO of? First Form supplement company, and I think a few other ones. He put out this idea for a program. So for 75 days, you work out twice a day for 45 minutes apiece. One of them has to be outside. You drink 1 gallon of water every day. You take a progress photo every day. You read 10 pages of nonfiction every day. Audiobooks don't count. You follow a diet of your own choosing with no cheat meals, no alcohol every day. If you miss one of those criteria once, one time, on one day, even by a little bit, then you start over. And you repeat it until you finish the 75 days. A lot of people think that this is about some body transformation, that it's about getting lean, getting in shape. It's not about that at all. That is just a tool to further a larger goal. He specifically states it's not about that. It's about building psychological fortitude. It's about setting your mind to something that is tedious and difficult, on which there is no compromise, and executing it for a predetermined length of time in a predetermined way. Because sometimes you have to do that. And I know that's somewhat at odds with the whole matrix thing that I just went on. But there are times when you have to, even if you're creating your own life, especially if you're creating your own life, that discipline is absolutely necessary from within, because it's not coming from without, the way it is if you have to show up at a 9-to-5 job. So it's about building that. It's about the importance of checking the small boxes, of double, triple, quadruple checking the list to make sure you did everything you need to do that day. And I'm about, 43 days in? That sounds right? 43 days in, and I'm just trying to keep track of my mindset, my outlook on life. And what I've found is that I feel more action-oriented. Yeah, I've lost some pounds. Yeah, I've finished a few books. Yeah, I've executed against a bunch of stuff in my life that I've been procrastinating on for literally years. And within the span of a few weeks, there was one point where I wrote in my journal, I've taken more action in the last 30 days than I have in the last 200. That's the truth. That's what it's about. And that trigger, that action-oriented mindset, I think is another part of the reason that I decided to do this today, as opposed to waiting another 3 to 5 years and seeing what happened. So on the car ride home from work, I just thought a little bit about what a podcast with me would look like. And this is kind of what I came up with. Just a quick list of what the overarching theme would be, what I want and what I don't want. This show, the motif, the undercurrent, the theme, is going to be as much a process of discovery for the man behind the microphone as it is for the men in front of it. You know, I'm clearly learning as I go along here, learning on the job, learning by doing it through repetition. And I lost my place. What did I say? Oh, it's gonna be like an emergent property of what I discover while I'm talking, while I'm rambling, while I'm speaking off the cuff, talking with my friends, whoever else happens to be on this program, such as it is a program. What I want from that is to talk about ideas that interest me, whether it be something I read, something I heard about in podcasts, because I am a fan of that vertical, whether it be something that a friend of mine told me, or whether it be just something I find fucking hilarious. And I do like to laugh a bit. I want to expand the variety of mental models with which I'm adept. I mentioned earlier that I got good, for better or worse, at using those contained within the whole red pill thing. Charlie Munger, Bruce, what's his name? Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's business partner is famous for having a list of mental models that he'll hang on his wall. And when he's trying to make a business decision, he'll look at it and run that decision through each one of those. So he might have, he's making a lot of economically based decisions. He'll say, go down the list, see Gini coefficient, and be like, okay, how does income inequality within the population of a given region, of a given size, how would that impact the decision I'm about to make? Or how would, I don't want to use any more of the term inequality because I don't like that's got to take the podcast. It's like Big Five theory of personality. That's another popular one. How would that allow me to step inside the minds of the executives with which I'm dealing? I want to develop my ability to articulate speech, to think and therefore speak more clearly. I pause a lot. I do the ums and ahs a lot. I lose my train of thought. My ideas aren't always as well thought out as they otherwise could be. I think this is a good medium for honing that tool, honing that skill set, and sharpening that aspect of the craft. I want to create instead of consume. I think now more than ever, we as a culture are losing touch with what it means to make things, what it means to bring something that had no form and give it one. An inanimate block of wood is now a sculpture. A rusty piece of metal that just got off the forge is now a knife. A blank piece of paper is now a novel. The act of creating is literally divine. I mean, that's what God, it was the first thing that God did. He breathed life into that which was lifeless. I don't want to be too high on myself. I think I'm some sort of a deity, but that is a part of our higher selves that I think the world is worse off if we leave it undeveloped. I want to experiment with experiences outside the matrix, outside the established order, the social norm of what constitutes our normal bandwidth of what we consider to be everyday life. Whether that be people that live somewhat alternative lifestyles, ideas that could be a little fringe, or ideas that aren't even that unusual on their own, but when combined create pretty interesting reactions with one another. And last but certainly not least, I want to talk shit with my friends. So as much as this sounds very serious, I sincerely doubt it's going to be. I'm not very much of a serious person. And I do not want, so getting to what I don't want this to be a dour interview show where I'm like sitting down with some stern professor and having a very above board conversation about, that's not me. I mean, I can't even imagine how I would find my way into that scenario, how somebody like that would want to talk to a lowlife like myself, or why I would want to talk to that kind of person, at least in that way, in that context, with the persona put on, the masks up, and everyone at arm's reach. And I don't want to forget that life is too important to be taken seriously. As much as this is all sounding very grandiose, it's grandiose because in order to establish an overarching philosophy for what I want this to be, I have to elevate the dialogue, speak in generalities, and in broad sweeping statements that are going to serve as a mission statement and ethos for this entire endeavor. And I don't want to develop a showman's persona. I think a lot of people that start to have some sort of success, however they choose to define it, they start to act different, man. It's not just a matter of like, oh, you forgot where you came from, but it's called the halo effect. Like you think because somebody's successful that they then have some special quality about them, and your wrestling coach now is qualified to give you dating advice because he led you to a state championship. Like those kinds of crossovers don't happen. Just because you had success in one area doesn't mean there's something that's so special about you that you can have success in another, or they have expertise in another. And people have a personality or a persona, a guise that they put out there, especially on the internet, that they feel the need to uphold, upkeep, and fulfill, be consistent with. And they lose who they really are underneath all that. That's not what I want for me. This would probably be a more polished project if I was going to go that route and get more listenership, but I don't know, man. This is what we're going to do, so I don't know what to tell you. So, it's been a lot of monologuing, and I just spiked the volume for everyone with earbuds in. Let's talk details. This is, now that we have the ethos out of the way, now that we have the mission statement out of the way, let's talk brass tacks in terms of how specifically this is going to be executed. So, in terms of the format, my friend, do you have any ideas?
What?
I'm gonna run a quote by you, all right? So I was thinking, I like Eric Weinstein's podcast, The Portal, and he starts every episode off with like this, I think I was describing to you earlier, almost like a short essay, like a little thing that he wrote, and they vary in length. It's not like they're always half an hour long, but it kind of helps to frame the conversation and give you a little subroutine to run in the background of your mind while you're consuming the conversation that he's having with his guests or guests. I would like to have something like that, even if it's not directly related to what we end up talking about. just so it's something that I've been percolating in my mind, that I've been thinking about, that maybe I can run by any guys that are on the show, and if we take it and run with it, then we take it and run with it. If we don't, then it's fine. It's just out there. So I was thinking about starting it with something like that, just a little vignette, almost like a little monologue, like what we did at the top just there. Just not as long, obviously, because we're 45 minutes in now or whatever. I don't know if that's actually the time mark. It just feels like a long time. But something probably shorter, and pre-written beforehand, not like this slapdash thing we did right now. Again, to give some context to the conversation. Then kind of going into just maybe having free talk. I'd probably have a few points that I wanted to get opinions on beforehand, just to steer the conversation. Should there be an awkward silence, or if everybody had a rough day at work and kind of having a little trouble getting the lawnmower started, you got to rip the cord a few times. Yeah, so that was just a general thing. I don't have thoughts for necessarily segments. I was also thinking about doing like show notes. So Tim Ferriss has this thing where he does, whenever he mentions something, so he mentions a book in his podcast, or he mentions a recipe, or he mentions a product, he'll have show notes that can correct the mistakes that were made, that were, like, say I cited a statistic and it was 74% instead of 45 or whatever. I correct that in the show notes. I don't know if I want to go super, super in depth with that right now, but I think it would be cool if I mentioned a book, if I had a link to it or something, so that people could find something or someone that's been influential on me and kind of pay that value forward. So, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that? Like, what does that sound cumbersome? Does that sound like something that'd be manageable? As someone that's sitting in the opposite chair, how would that make you feel as a guest?
Show notes specifically?
Okay, so I guess first if I started off reading you like I say essay, what a paragraph that I wrote, is that too like middle school fucking show and tell? Is there something lame and
I think so.
small dick about that, or what?
I feel like it would be cool to see your more polished words, I guess.
Okay, because I was thinking about I was thinking about doing a blog to go along with this, or a website. I don't. The word blog is tarnished at this point, but maybe it could be something from there or relating to something from there. Because it'd be kind of not a stream of consciousness, but yeah, like you said, a polished thing, but still something that my mind's been on, that I kind of wanted to get out there. So that wouldn't be it. Obviously, I'm trapped in my own head here. It's hard to get out. So as somebody else, if somebody sat you down and is like, here, I wrote this thing, let me read it to you. Is that like invasive? Is that, I don't know, man. It seems kind of weird, but at the same time,
I feel like it's a worthwhile pursuit.
at least worth trying, right?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to continue through the entire
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
series.
I think it's important to remember that all this is just like one giant experiment, and like there's no commitment that I have to adhere to.
It's what you want.
Yeah, like I did this thing once, and now I fucking have to. And I don't have a fan base that I have to appease. So there's a freedom and anonymity. All right, so let's say I would. I'm just writing this down here. I'd say I would start off like some podcast format. Yes, we're literally hashing this out on the air. So I'd start off with like paragraph, right? And then I would just have like conversation points that I could use or not. Like I have, like before, I had just a bulleted list of things to guide me through this rambling journey that I took, whether or not I adhere to them, whatever. Then just kind of like bullshit. We should write bullshit because that's gonna be what we do. And then question mark, then profit. Okay. Would this be something? I really appreciate you coming out here. Would this be something we kind of have to do it more in order for it to be a thing? So like once a month, once a week. What do you think? Like you said, you don't do podcasts, right?
I said listen to them. No, I
Like
don't.
you don't listen to them.
No, generally not.
What do you listen to?
Music. I generally don't read things for fun or, I mean, other than like a quick Google search or just random internet research, but I don't generally listen to series or podcasts or anything on a recurring basis.
Okay. I'm trying to think like what would be a good analog for podcasting. Like you listen to talk shows on the radio, you're not 80. Only old people do that. AM radio.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember Car Talk though? You don't. Oh, you're too young for that. I'm old as fuck, people. I don't know if you knew that. You don't remember that? It was something. These two guys, I think they were mechanics, and people would call in with questions about their car. But the thing that was entertaining had nothing to do with actual car questions. It was just their dynamic, their chemistry. I think it was on like 90s, early 2000s. It was super popular, like to the extent that they had cassettes. They recorded of their episodes, and even as a child, it was entertaining to listen to. As somebody that had no idea what cars were about. I don't know, man. Again, it's not gonna be something like I commit to, but I would at least want to do. It doesn't have to always be you. I don't want to put a burden on you to like launch a venture that you never agreed to. Obviously, our other friends are less consistent and trustworthy than you are. So, like, what would be a good balance between, all right, this is just too much at this point, and you're putting like out one a year, so it's never going to go anywhere, or you're never going to have like get enough repetitions of doing episodes to really get experience doing it.
I would say like every 3 weeks.
Every 3 weeks?
Or maybe once a month. I don't know. I feel like if you do every 3 weeks, you at least get that more than 12 in a year.
Start there, right? You can always like dial up or down depending, and not everyone would have to be. That's another thing that I didn't think of, like the time. Some of them, like Rogan, is 3 fucking hours long, but some of them are shorter. Some of them are like 30 minutes. I think Tim Ferriss is hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 1 hour. Some people have like 45-minute podcasts, so people find their length and find their format.
I don't think you should commit so much to a regular schedule.
Yeah.
I think, especially if you're going to do any podcasts where it's just you, is that an option?
You know, so it's actually very interesting that you bring that up. You know who Bill Burr is? All right. Love his comedy. He's had a podcast for years, and it's one of the most interesting ones because it's just most of the time he's started to bring people on sometimes, but most of the time it's just him rambling. And there's something I don't think I've seen anyone else do that. I don't think I've seen anybody else not have another person there to break it up, to have it back and forth, to have an actual conversation. Like, most of this has just been me talking, and you just like, oh my god, when is this guy gonna stop? With him, it's actually entertaining because he's a maniac and he has like a hyperactive energy, and he's a professional entertainer. But he's the only one I can think of that's like done that successfully. I don't know. I mean, I guess anything's an option. I just don't.
I mean, you don't have to go one route or the other. It's just you can have your more regularly scheduled guests, and then just use it as an outlet as you see fit. Just if there's something on your mind, you want to talk about it, do a podcast for it.
Okay, I like that. Use it as an outlet. Because that's kind of what I want. I don't want it to be a project that consumes my life, and now I'm like the podcaster. Like, what do you do? Oh, I podcast, and then you know what I mean. I have to make nice with like the podcast networks and
big podcast business.
a bunch of fucking soccer moms with nothing to do. It's already burned them right there. Like any sponsorship money is out the door. Okay. I was also thinking. I know this a lot at one time. Like I don't even have an episode out yet, and I'm like, I was thinking about all these different side projects. About doing. I think I mentioned this to you. Like writing, and then doing like an audio recording of the thing that I wrote.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mark Manson does that. I like that. You see him kind of copy pasting from different. Was it Picasso? Great artist steal. Yeah, I'm gonna. I like that. I think it would give me some more experience with spoken word, and it could just be fun. So that would be something that I would do solo. But part of it is also just an excuse to see you guys. Because you hang out and I want to get everyone together. I think the conversations that we have are often hilarious or even absurd. And the shit that we talk about is just like... like there's a reason we didn't do this at your house.
Oh yeah.
We'll say that. So even if we just press record, and with maybe some exceptions, just started talking, like you just forgot the thing was on, because everyone starts talking differently. You have to project differently, and like the eye contact is weird. Like right now it's weird, because there's something recording you, and neither one of us talk like this in real life.
Well, you do.
All right. Normal people don't talk like this in real life. But again, even as just a way to get the guys together. Like, if you look at Rogan's early episodes, like, I started listening to him in, like, 2015. And he had been doing it for a while even then. It was, like, him and Red Band, who I don't even know if they're friends anymore. A comedian friend of his. Just, like, bullshitting on a webcam. It was not what it is today. It was not the studio, every ad you could have under the sun, millions of subscribers, $100 million deal with Spotify. It was not that at all. It was them sitting in front of a shitty webcam on a laptop and like awkwardly talking. And I think the early ones, they weren't even sitting across from each other. They were sitting side by side so they could just both fit in the frame. So it was like, you know, you're trying to talk to the friend next to you in the booth at the restaurant. It was like that. So.
Side note: when two people go to a restaurant and they sit side to side, that's weird, right?
Is that a peeve of yours?
Yes.
So this is this lady at work who said that was a peeve of hers. I just kind of took it as she had a conservative upbringing, because she said when people are on a date and they sit next to each other, it bothers her, and I'm like. All right, so if you were out with a girl, right? Would you'd probably want to sit next to her.
I mean, not if you're sitting in a restaurant.
Oh, hold on, all right. Restaurant? What do you mean a restaurant? Like, are we talking diner? Or are we talking like Olive Garden? Or are we talking like actual restaurant?
I'm thinking of somewhere with like a booth, so I guess that falls more into diner than like fancy restaurant.
I feel like diner is more acceptable because it's like you get the milkshake with 2 straws, and you take your dame out on the town.
I feel like that's equally accessible across the table.
Okay.
Because then you have to like you have to shift your neck.
Yeah, but you don't have to. You're the onlooker, bro. Like, why does it bother you? Like, why? Why? I can understand why it would bother you if you were in that situation, in the booth, you have to turn to face the girl. But if you're sitting across and you're like feeling hatred toward these people because you're forced to watch him turn his neck, like that's what is that? Why would that bother you?
Alright, I'm convinced.
No, I'm just asking a question, man. Like,
I mean that.
no.
I did it.
No, like there are some things, there's some ridiculous things like that do bother me that shouldn't, but I do feel there's a difference between doing that in a diner, just because of the ambiance, the vibe, the social expectations, and doing that in I don't know whatever a fancy restaurant near you is. You go, they have the fucking red or black tablecloth, whatever is more fancy. The lace tablecloth, and an indentured servant comes up and says, "Would you like water, sir?" And then you're like, "No, Alfred, get lost." And Mr. Beauregard, yeah. What was it? We're all out of marmalade. There we go. Yeah. So Mr. Beauregard comes up and serves you marmalade, and like you're sitting next to each other at this long ass table with a fucking chandelier on top of it.
Long ass table. They're not gonna sit two people at a long ass table.
If you're important. Isn't that how really rich couples do it? Like they don't love each other anymore, so they don't want to be close to each other. And they have like that big, like a flugelhorn or whatever. They talk into, so it amplifies their voice.
What?
You know that big like the thing that the people yodel into.
Oh, God.
Whatever that's called. Like
Okay.
you're a Swiss guy. You stand at the top of the mountain. There's a big tuba-looking thing, and you go yodeling. It's like I imagine they have that, but they shout to each other to cross the table. All right, this has gotten more abstract than it needed to be. The point is, I like being in physical contact with them. Maybe I'm like touchy-feely like that. There's a point where it's like, all right, I need you to get off me. Where it's too much. I know a lot of people aren't like, public display of affection. I think I'm totally against that. People I don't know, he doesn't laugh. He just had a neurological glitch. He has a condition. Yeah, take that corn. My man is eating a piece of candy corn right now. It looks delicious, but I'm doing 75 hard, so I can't have any. Best believe I'm going to stuff my face as soon as it's over.
One of the most polarizing candies there are. People hate you for. Alright, so people hate you for sitting next to people in a diner?
You hate people for doing that, but go on.
Other people hate people for liking candy corn and peeps.
Dude, who hates other people for liking...
I can name 5 friends right now.
Alright, if somebody told me they liked like saltwater taffy was their favorite candy, I would probably despise them. Just because, I don't know, that's the type of person that had a wooden horse with a wig growing up as their favorite toy. You know what I mean? The rocking horse.
I think I'm not respect.
They had... Oh, that one's even worse, dude. What is that? It's not fun. I used to try to like twirl it around like a bow staff, like fucking Donatello from the Ninja Turtles. I don't know, like who would? Maybe they're not my favorite candies, but I don't know. I couldn't see myself protesting the Peak Factory and the people who go there. Like, I don't want you in my neighborhood.
I said hate, and that's hyperbole, but like they get visually upset and disgusted that you could eat something like that.
What disgusts me is when people aggressively say Reese's.
Yeah, Reese's Pieces or Reese's.
Reese's Pieces. Like, who the fuck do you think you are, bro? It clearly is REESE''S. Reese's. We can agree. It's Reese's. Why? You go ahead and crinkle, man. We gotta edit. All right, so I had a bunch of other stuff on this list of mine to talk about, like online presence. Do I do a website? Do I put it on? Where do podcasts go? I hear people go like Stitcher. I don't even know what fucking Stitcher is. I just go to Google Podcasts. Or like Spotify. Like, I don't know what all those are. Bandcamp.
At least 0 visual visual aspect to any of this?
Well, I mean, all right, what's an idea of what a visual aspect would be?
Like, I don't know, some people animate. I mean, obviously that'd be a whole endeavor.
Well, I'll quit my job right now.
They animate specific parts of like a video just to kind of add a little something to it. I don't know. That's just an example of something that would be visual. Would you have like an intro logo and motions and whatever logo reveal?
All right, so I have thought about logo because if you go see even on Spotify for music and shit, they have the album art. It's weird. It's like sketchy when somebody doesn't have any album art. It's like, am I gonna get a virus from clicking on this? Is it a corrupted file? I think it's a similar thing with podcasts. Like they have their podcast logo. It could be an image of them. It could be some graphic design, lettering, whatever it is. They have some identifiable factor to let you know you're on the right page.
Does Joe Rogan video records?
He does, yeah. He has a real pro setup. That's the thing. He has it now, but it's because he's done well over 1,000. He's coming on 2,000 episodes, and he's done other stuff. And he is a professional comedian. He has a lot of broadcast experience. You know what I mean? He's a lot of time behind a camera, behind a mic. But back in the day, he didn't. Yeah, he does record the video, and he puts out video recording as well as audio recording. But you wouldn't want me to take video of you.
Absolutely not.
Right? So, like, if people aren't comfortable doing video, then why add an extra element to the thing if it's just gonna be a hassle and nobody really wants it? You know? So I would do a logo. I'd have to learn how to make logos, so that'd be a whole other endeavor.
I can do your logo.
You heard it here first, people.
And album logo.
I would appreciate that. I owe you corn, obviously. I was trying to think of an alliteration of like maize molasses. That's why I paused, but it wasn't working out. So Candy cash. So I would have a visual in that sense. If I did we were talking about doing YouTube like audio articles or whatever, I'd have to have something on the screen. So it's not just like a blank gray. I brought Mark Manson up before. He has like a. Some people have like that waveform thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just adds a little something. Even if you have it on in the background, it adds a little, I don't know, screensaver element to the thing you're listening to. I think that's nice. So I might just do something like that. But I wouldn't want to animate something. It's a whole other thing I have to learn how to do. Doing video.
If there's like a special use case for it, like something that would really benefit from, adding in that element.
All right, that's a good point. People do shorts. Some people do like if there's a particularly funny segment of a podcast, or somebody tells some wild story, they animate it to like what it would look like. It's like a caricature of.
That's fine.
But that's something that you recruit like a fan to do that's like really passionate and pay them for something to animate it. I really don't. I mean, animating is an awesome skill, but it's so far outside the realm of what I want to do right now. And, it's just so full. So I guess I would do something like that if the need arose or if there was a calling for it. About video, I don't think so. There's the Weekly Planet. I like them. They're like a comic book. I don't listen to them much right now, but I'll go back every now and again. They do like comic book, movie and comic book stuff. So and all that nerd type shit. And their dynamic is really funny. And they're both really good like improv comics. They have good improv skills. So it kind of flows really well. They also have a really low energy, like low effort style, where they're not taking it seriously at all. They have a successful podcast, but they're like they think it's gonna fall apart at any minute. And they're like they'll just leave shit in. They'll be like, "You're gonna edit that out?" They're gonna be like, "Nah." And you have to leave that where they're having that discussion in. So they do. They don't. I don't think they do video. I think they've done like the face reveals, so you know what they look like now. They've done like live shows, so like a live podcast in front of a crowd. But I don't think they just in their normal episodes. I don't think they shoot video. They might have changed that. I don't know. I don't really feel necessarily the calling to do it. I think a lot of the value of podcasts is that you can do them. You can listen to them while you're doing other things. Yeah. So you're listening to like this fun conversation. Like when I was working shitty jobs, I used to work doing like landscaping jobs, and fucking bitter cold, nothing to do. You're outside for 10 hours shoveling snow, raking leaves, cutting grass, all that kind of shit. And I would listen to podcasts. I learned a ton doing that. I got probably several university degrees, like just listening to people bullshit and bringing on interesting guests and scientists, and a lot of that was Rogan that I got that exposure to. And it was on in the background, just kind of downloading information into my brain. Mm. And I guess there's a space for podcasts to be visual, but if it becomes too visual, then what's the difference between that and just like a TV show, or that and a YouTube video? Like where does what makes a podcast a podcast? To me, it's kind of like the auditory element is more has to reign supreme for it to remain within that art form, you know. But I would. If let's say I did do a website of some sort, it obviously has to have a theme. It would have to look. It can't be irate to go on the website, you know. So there's visual in that, but I'm kind of minimalistic. I don't like frills and excess and shit, except in my vocab. And so I'd have to do something there. Have like a little logo. I think that adds some sort of recognition. Adds something, I can't quite articulate right now, to the experience of going to a website, going to a page, going to a this or that. You brought up Twitter to me at some point. We were talking about social media. You said you thought Twitter was like my format. Like because it was like Instagram. And I was like, I don't know if I'm not a huge picture person. I do have to have you guys teach me Instagram though, because I do want to start just maybe just do a little bit. Bro, I was talking to this chick. Bro, tell me how I texted this bitch, right? And this is the shredded one. Okay. And I was like, I said something about like going out for a date, and she was like, she was up for it, right? And I'm like, what's Saturday look like? What's your schedule like? She's like, changed all the time. Like, what's Saturday look like? Have her back tomorrow. Saturday, almost Sunday right now. What the fuck, man? What the fuck?
Let's get into the DMs.
Let's get into the DMs. I don't know, man. It's like, it's dismal. It's dismal in that convo. She's like real sparse over text. We have like these real long, and I really think the phone is really just for, at least initially, setting up a date or confirming that's going to happen. Like, I think a mistake that a lot of us make, and I'll still fall into this trap sometime, it is, obviously things are hard right now with the state of the world being what it is. Not the dating episode. But under normal circumstances, guys that like were trying to seduce over text, I think that's an error. I think like your best work is going to be done in person, and then the phone is a tool to use to get the girl in person. You know what I mean? But I'm terrible. I'm terrible with texting now.
I mean, understand.
I'm awful. I don't know. I was just salty about it. Cause like you leave me on red, like you just say no, bro. I should have what I should have done because I hadn't heard back from her, so I just had to set up a work shift for today because I had to make some hours up. So I mean, it's always helpful to like double book, say, well, if I don't go see her, then I'm going to see her instead, or if I don't go see her, then I'm going to do this thing instead, or whatever. That way, A, it's not as much of a loss for you because you're not like, why my whole day was riding on this. Yeah. And then B, at least something is done. So what I should have done, if that wasn't the case, is probably like texted her, just like a question mark. Like, I don't know. It kind of annoys me when people do that though, but I think it shows the right kind of entitlement. Like I expect to be responded to. No. All right. Not to air my dirty laundry here, but it's getting way worse before it gets better. I'll say that. Twitter. That's what I was thinking of. You brought up the idea of Twitter because we were talking about social media, and you're like, I kind of see you as more of a Twitter guy. But Twitter sounds, yeah. I don't have a fucking timestamp, dude.
It wasn't today.
No. It was like months ago. Because it's like written word.
I took it way too seriously. It was just like
pinning it all on me.
It was probably like just.
All my fault.
It was just like a quick rebuttal or something. You're like, oh, I'm not really into Instagram. I'm like, oh, you're probably more of a Twitter person. Or like, that wasn't the time, but just like, it's the textual counterpart to Instagram.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like you would not enjoy yourself.
No, everything. So I don't really go on. Every once in a while, there'll be a link that like takes you to Twitter, and I'll scroll maybe I'll get like one or two screens deep. You go like scroll down up one screen, you know what I mean. So it's so quickly degenerates. Like how long before somebody calls somebody else a nigger? Like which is faster? Like YouTube or Twitter?
Definitely Twitter. I don't see that on YouTube anymore.
I think they got better at censoring it. Maybe that's why. But that does get pretty petty.
Here's a podcast.
Yeah.
Breaking down what happened to YouTube comment section.
Go on.
Why is it the way it is? What?
The level of exasperation in your voice, bro.
What motivates these people to comment the same format every single video? No one cares.
Are you?
The likes don't mean anything.
Oh.
Why are you asking for thumbs up? Why are you asking who's watching this year? No one cares.
All right. What are your top ones that bug you? So the who's watching / listening in 2020? Who?
Insert any years. Been having for years.
Yeah. And then those don't age well because it's so year specific. What else? People ask for likes. How do they do it? Because it changes a little bit over time. And remember, they used to have. I think these are less now. But they used to be like the chainmail ones, where it'd be like craziest thing. I met my crush today, and then somebody told me that if I didn't like this comment, that I would have 70 years of bad luck.
Yeah.
I don't see those as much anymore.
That's like OG.
Those were yeah. That was I'm firing my laser era YouTube. Bro, are you serious? That was back when memes were memes, man.
Oh.
The Long Johnson era.
Yeah.
The memes were so crude back in the day. There was They didn't even mean anything. They were just like a ridiculous image that made no sense. Like today, there's a theme. Today, there's a.
Such a rich.
Yeah.
Just drill down to layers and layers.
There's too much. I would want to write something about that, but there's too much for me to do it. I have on my to be read Richard Dawkins' book The Selfish Gene. That's where the term meme comes from, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, it was a yeah. So I want to read that, get a kind of a better understanding, but it's so richly ensconced in psychology, like evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology. How would I ever write? And do we even really understand? And then trying to like take a look at how that intersects with present technologies in the specific ways that it does and manifests itself in what's that one, the swole doge or whatever, the woolly jack dog. I feel he's kind of platonic, or maybe it's fast to speak. I don't know. Yeah. How do you have a better, you can finger on the pulse of this stuff. I'm totally disconnected. How do you, there's gotta be some site that tracks meme popularity. Has a ticker, like a stock. You know what I mean? Somebody, there's an idea. There's an idea for a website that will make money for a week and then plummet in popularity.
I mean, there's Know Your Meme. I guess there's probably...
Those are helpful. It's like a rich history.
Yeah. If they had any sort of like analytics available on their website, that would be pretty interesting.
Peak meme to me, again, I'm dating myself, was like, you know, I like Velociraptor. You know I was going to bring it up. Like the black guy one, where it would say something that you would think would be a racial stereotype, and then it goes down. It's like I pick up I get KFC every Wednesday and donate it to a local homeless shelter, or some shit like that. You know what I mean? It would be like this fake out, like, oh, you thought something racist, and then it's just a respectful one for society. Or like, I beat my kids at chess every Saturday. You know what I mean? Good Guy Gary or Good Guy Greg or something. It was like this scummy looking Slavic dude with a patchy beard and.
But not to be confused with Scumbag Steve.
Scumbag Steve. What was that one?
He was the scummy looking.
This is where visual come into play. This is where like it fall. All right, go on.
What was it? It's just a scummy guy. He had like a hat or something. I mean, we could just pull these up.
Yeah, then it degenerates and try to stay off the phone. Pull that up. Jamie's the Joe Rogan guy. he's the Google Meister for Joe Rogan. Yeah. Oh, I hate that guy. Imagine that guy came, like, your daughter brought that guy home. She was like a Nobel laureate. Comes home with that sack of shit.
Meanwhile. Good guy Greg.
Good guy.
I never understood why this was the good guy.
I think it's because it shouldn't be.
Well, they're not really.
Like, because he looks like a scumbag,
Yeah.
but he's actually a solid dude. Yeah. So those ones. What are some other ones that are like from that era? I think because those are all the ones that are like really text based.
That was like the introduction to most memes. That was like when memes actually became a thing.
They became their own niche. Yeah.
There was Awkward Penguin, and then
Yeah.
the red one, which is the Cool Penguin or something.
I vaguely remember. I don't think I ever got that. I vaguely remember it.
All the things.
Yeah. Okay. I never liked that one. There was
The kid, the baby, or like
You know how art goes through like periods, right? Like phases. I'm not an art historian, so I'm gonna fuck this up, right?
How many ages of meme already
Well,
transpired?
that's a good question. So number one, I wonder if it's like cyclical. So I wonder if every type of art goes through a romantic period, its own version of modernism and postmodernism. Like, so if you created a new art form tomorrow, would it have a certain life cycle? Or maybe the particular manifestation of that life cycle, like what it looked like in the art form, would be context dependent on the time, the zeitgeist of your culture, or whatever. But would it have elements of like the whole post ironic thing that I think we're in right now, where everything is so many layers of joke that even the people that are making the joke don't know if it's a joke or not, and like nothing is real. We don't know. We don't have any real value system, and that shows in our humor. Because I think a lot of these even memes are weapons. Like there's um, like foreign countries will have people like they'll have people employed to make memes about political figures to like satirize them so people don't take them seriously. Like there's like the weaponization of humor as a political instrument. Um, I'm trying to bring this into a serious place here, but there's so many or like Sam Hyde. Uh, yeah,
I don't understand that.
nobody does, and I think that's the point. And I'm not even sure he does. So there's so many layers of what is this like a double bluff, a triple bluff? He's joking, or he's using sarcasm to admit the truth. Is he just a weird guy? So he's not actually joking, but it just comes off as kind of off. And you actually believe what is it? And we're never going to know. Is that the point? Does he have a point? Is he the point? Like what? But see, that's the era that this whole meme thing is in. That's the era that a lot of our you go with superhero movies. Like we had the earnest superhero phase with the fucking Avengers and everything. They're all straight man superheroes, and that's straight man in terms of the comedy term, not the. Then you had the anti-heroes, you know, like well, we want darker, grittier deconstructions. We want to see our heroes brought low, and then you have the kind of postmodern or post-ironic or whatever, like the Deadpool kind of thing, or the Joker, where it's like
safe space and stuff like.
How do you mean?
The Marvel characters that they tried to create.
I'm sorry.
Safe space and stuff. You didn't hear about that?
No.
To try and reclaim the words they tried to make heroes by those names.
This silence is staying in, by the way.
I think they might have backtracked on it.
I would hope so. What? What?
That's the extent of my knowledge on it.
What kind of powers do they have? Look, pull that up. That's the most important thing right now. Okay, what did Safe Space have? Oh my god, dude. What if there's a movie made about that?
I see headlines confirming its cancellation.
So we're never going to know about what it was going to be. I can't, like, what it. Maybe it's like force fields or something? It would have to be something like that, right?
Oh no, there's a whole legion of them.
Oh god, how many?
The New Warriors.
I feel like that was already a thing.
Oh, is it?
But maybe they took the, I don't know. Okay, what is it? Like, what are the names? How many are there?
There's Screen Time.
What? Okay.
A meme-obsessed super teen whose brain became connected to the internet after becoming exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas.
What is that even? All right, go on. What? No, hold on. I can't move past this. The more it's this is breaking my brain. All right, how do you pronounce it? Koan? Those Zen riddles that are supposed to like break your mind. It's like, what's the sound of one hand clapping? You're supposed to contemplate it, and it's supposed to like be a meditative thing because it has no answer. And in doing so, the conscious mind is like, all right, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of those, but a horrible version. Like it just breaks my brain into. It's like makes my brain into a Mobius strip.
I just
Yeah, because for work you're probably
no.
reinventing them and calculating vectors and vortices.
Okay, so basically this is a reimagining of the New Warriors.
Okay.
So, like I said, introducing the new Warriors. So, like I said, we have screen time. Just if you want a little more detail on screen time.
Paul's right there. I'm gonna go take a leak. I might keep this in. All right. Screen time.
Experimental internet gas.
Stop saying it to me. All right. Screen time.
He can see augmented reality in real-time maps and can instantly Google any fact. Does this make him effectively a genius? He sure acts like it does. This is straight from Marvel.com.
But wait, can't we all do that?
I guess he can do it in his brain.
Okay, so Elon Musk is working on that right now. Like, what's all right? Go on.
The word screen time is only ever used in a sort of restrictive sense. And because we're doing a story about teenage rebels,
Dude.
although this is fighting against labels that are put on him. So the screen time, we like the idea that he has infinite screen time.
So all he does is beat off and look at his phone. All right, fair enough, man. That's most of what I do. So
Snowflake and Sixers.
This is gonna be good.
Psychic twins.
Uh-huh.
All twins are psychic, but we're psychic.
That's okay.
Snowflake, cryokinetic, can materialize snowflake-shaped shuriken projectiles for throwing. Say.
Yeah?
Oh, you called this one. Say space can materialize pink force.
Pink? I'm surprised they're not rainbow. Go on.
Pink force fields, but he can't inhabit them himself.
Of course not. Dude, there's something there. No, there's a deep, you sense it too, right? There's a deep, like, that makes sense given what they're trying to push. Like,
He can't inhabit them himself. The reflex only works if he's protecting others.
yeah. Be an advocate. Be an ally.
They're hyper aware of modern filtered optics, and they see their super.
Dude, this is gonna take the cake. This is gonna be the coup de grace.
They see their superheroics as post-ironic.
Yo! Oh!
It's a post-ironic meditation on using violence to combat bullying.
What does that even mean?
They're probably screaming this.
Oh my fucking god. All right. I think that's as good a place as any to wrap this up. What do you think, my friend? Yeah, I think we're all done after that travesty. Thank you to any of you who have inevitably stumbled across this and probably listened this far. I do appreciate your time and hope to see you when I see you.